Hi, welcome back to the Daughters of the Moon podcast. We're grateful that you can join us again. And we are very lucky. We have Maria Deesy back on with us from New York. I'll get it right this time. Last time I said you were from Ontario. That was my mistake.
I could be.
Maybe you're just everywhere.
We're all everywhere.
Exactly. So we're just gonna dive in and start having a conversation. We thought we'd talk about time and just how we're all relating to the time at the moment.
Oh, it's true. It's so true right now.
Yeah.
I find this last year has moved on so fast that it's like that. It's been gone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's time is interesting because I've been aware of the time dynamics changing for years now, for at least 7 years, and going through the process and watching how time is changing and how the energies can feel like it's speeding us up at times. But it's the inner programming that we carry that ties us to the matrix of the third dimension, right? So what's happening is that these frequencies that we can't see with our eyes are coming into our field. They're shifting our molecular structure. They're changing our DNA. And so all of these changes and upgrades activating our light body is what's helping to release these programs that we've been tied to because it's how we incarnated. And if you think about it on a grander scale, the earth plane and the electromagnetic field is based on time. It specifically had that programming to it so that we could play the game of aging because none of that is our reality. It's just what we've been taught along the way, that we've been just led into. So if we've never questioned it, then we just took it verbatim that we're supposed to age, and when we get to a certain point we're supposed to transition out of the physical body, off the earth, and now we're actually seeing so many people shifting in many ways, like I mentioned earlier before we got on the call, people who are breatharians who don't really need to eat anymore. They're just using these transmissions of light coming from the sun and their breath work in order to sustain them. And they're not eating food. There's a woman that has been doing this for over 20 years now. And I think she's the one that's the longest, has the longest history on the earth of not eating. And I think.
Does she not? I'm sorry,
What's that?
Does she not drink or anything like that either, or is it just?
She drinks water, but from my understanding, and I'm not really versed in it because I haven't fully practiced that yet. I do practice, fasting, like a 3-day fast, but I haven't gone past a 3-day fast yet. But I have to say that once you hit the 3-day mark with a fast, everything shifts, and then you kind of let go of the idea of food the first day, and the second day is challenging because the mind, the physical mind, the human mind still wants to eat food, right? Because it's the program. Think about when you're in school. I know here in the States, our schools had us, we would get, you made sure you ate breakfast before you left for school. Then you would get a morning snack at school, and then you would have your lunch, and then you went home, maybe had another snack, and then you had dinner, right? So there's that food programming, and it was like, it's noon, it's time for lunch, or it's
Right.
5 o'clock, it's time for dinner. So that program is in us. And what happens when we fast is it gives up the body an opportunity to detox, not only from the heavy metals and the impurities, the toxicities that we take in on a daily basis, but it also gives us an opportunity to detox from these mental programs that we run, which, you know, we all agreed to when we incarnated, because it was how we chose to forget our ascended self and play the human game, right?
Right.
True.
And it seems to be popping up more and more. I just was away at a wellness retreat this last weekend, and it was interesting because there was a lot of the speakers, and a lot of them did talk about how they're doing like the intermittent fasting and right, just to kind of clear their minds as well as their bodies. So
Yeah. I think
it is.
I do think it's become very popular. Especially the intermittent fasting.
Mhm.
A lot of people are, you know, utilizing that and finding benefit in it. I don't necessarily think that it's geared toward weight loss, because I know many, many people that have done it. I know there's a lot of claims, oh, you know, it's a weight loss tool. In my opinion, and it's just my opinion, it's not. It's primarily to detox the body and keep the body clear. And then at a certain point, you start eating again and intake as much food as you need. But you know, you're drinking water throughout the whole day. Now,
True.
one thing I wanted to say is with the fasting, I do know people who have, you know, these higher level spiritual people who are extremely connected, like otherworldly connected, who have been able to fast for 10 days, 15 days. And what I have been given or offered as information on that is that in order to do that and be successful with it, the water has to be a different type of water that we're taking in. So it has to be a water that's more hydrogenized. So you actually need less water than, you know, you would normally drink, because the water is filled with hydrogen and it's hydrating your body much better than water, let's say, you could even get out of a Berkey or an Alexapure. Now, I have an Alexapure, and I have noticed that because the quality of water is so much better with the Alexapure, I don't drink quite as much water as I used to drink. I feel more hydrated. My skin is more hydrated. But the hydrogen machine, it's a machine that you need to hydrogenate, I can never say it, hydrogenate the water is, you know, it's quite expensive. I think it's somewhere in the neighborhood of like $4,000. And but it does such a wonderful job of filling up the water molecules that what you're taking in is so much better for you. So I think that would be the way to go going forward in the future. You know, if you were considering, if somebody was considering doing more of these extensive fasts, which is something I'm interested in doing in the future, not right now, but, you know, at some point, doing more of that. Because I could tell you that when I hit day 3 of the fast, there is a shift that takes place in the clarity in the mind, in your connection, in your field. You just feel it, you know, through and through. But I think that if we're going beyond that, and I have heard this from the people that have done these 10-day fasts, that you get to a point where you're a little sick because your body is purging the next level of the toxins, the next level of the programs. And they're called program dumps because it's what it is. It's a program like the whole eating program. And then there's less of a need to keep food in the house. You know, I found that from doing these fasts, I only keep the food that I'm actually going to eat or what's necessary for a few days, and I go out and buy new food after a couple of days. Like I used to keep a lot of food in the freezer and everything just so that I know I had food. Does that make sense?
It does, because I don't keep a lot of food in my freezer anymore either.
Yeah.
And I find that I'm eating differently than I used to eat, where I'm eating a lot more fruits and lots more vegetables. I do bring some protein, some meats and that into my diet. But I'm really more into, like I said, at night, instead of eating chips or something like that, I'll sit there with a thing of raspberries or strawberries or whatever, and that'll be what I do. So I'm not having really big meals and that kind of thing, and I feel better for it.
Yeah.
I feel better for it. I have more clarity and that kind of thing too. So it's working for me. I'm glad.
Yeah. It makes it easier. It's easier on the digestive system. It's not
so.
working as hard as it would if we were eating something else.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I agree
I
too.
agree.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it does seem to be a shift, like energetically worldwide. You hear more and more people that are doing
Yeah.
the fasting and are doing, changing their ways of eating and drinking different water than just from your tap or those kind of things to be able to hydrate the cells in our body and give us that different auric field around us to
Yeah, absolutely. And the first place it starts is with the investment in ourselves, right? That is the biggest shift because that will shift so much in the body to begin with. Getting something like a Berkey filtration system or an Alexa Pure, which is the one I have, it might run you $250, $300 to get that, but the investment in that, while it's not quite as extensive as the one that hydrogenates the water, it's an investment in yourself. So you're already, giving that energy source back to yourself and saying, yes, I value myself, in order to do that. So yeah, every little bit that we can do, and it happens, I want people to understand that you can't force it, right? When I gave up meat, that was like 5 or 6 years ago, I could not force that. It was just, I had tried many times before. And then one day it was like, okay, I can't even smell that. I don't know what's going on, but I can't even be near it, right? And so, and that was how I ended up moving away from meat. I still eat a little bit of fish here and there just to get some protein in if my body is saying, hey, we need a little protein or whatever, but I supplement it with other things. Sometimes I make salad with pine nuts, and pine nuts are a really great source of calcium and a whole bunch of other things. So we can find other ways to supplement ourselves. And I feel like when we're listening to the body and we're staying present in our present state of being, we can see so much more and with greater clarity where we need to be or where we need to start dialing into or tuning into, right? Don't you agree with that?
Yeah, I do agree with that.
Me too. I find that I'm the same. If I pick up something and think, oh, I wouldn't mind that, I pick it up and go, yeah, no, that's not it. Put it back down, sort of thing. Right now I'm going through an avocado thing where I need that more of that into my system right now. So I'm having lots of them. And I'm finding that is sort of taking away nausea. Because sometimes you get up in the morning, you have your drink of water and it's like whatever. So I find it takes away nausea. It's starting to make me feel better during the day until I work out and then I can have something to eat. But before that, it's like, no way. Don't even think about putting anything else in there because it just won't go, so and the odd day, yes, but no.
And I even found that I think it's funny because when you start listening to your body and your internal self, what we're trying to say to ourselves, like even yesterday I was grocery shopping and there was a couple things, oh, I haven't had that for a while, I should get that. And I went to grab it and I couldn't pull it off the shelf because it was stuck or whatever. And I was like,
that's a sign.
That's not meant for me, right?
Yeah.
Like that's my higher self trying to say, don't have that. That's not gonna work for your body anymore. So, and I think it's just hard when we start realizing that and working with those energies.
Yeah. Yeah, we have to pay attention. I want to just address the nausea because that is an ascension upgrade. So the nausea happens when our field suddenly shifts into a higher, faster spin rate, and it'll throw us off if we're very sensitive to the energies. So what'll happen is we'll feel a little nauseous because it's an upgrade, it's an upshift,
Oh,
making
okay.
our field spin faster. So it's not like there's something wrong. That's a
Thank you.
natural occurrence through our ascension process. If you were to actually vomit, that is programming coming up, deeper programming that is held within the tissues, the bones, the infrastructure of the body. And that's those programs like the eating program, the time program, all of that sort of stuff, right? And these programs are being expelled through fluids, which is why a lot of people will all of a sudden spontaneously start crying for no reason, not understand why they're crying, but they're having like
Right.
a meltdown. And, it's tears are a very, very fast way for these programs to clear the body. They clear through fluid.
Cleansing for
So,
sure.
yeah, so the nausea,
Yeah.
so it's more like the fat of the avocado is helping to ground you while you are going through this uptick in frequency. And that's going
Wow.
to happen more and more and more. It's been this way for, ever since we hit 2012, right? But now
Right.
it's even more because as we're heading through things like this eclipse gateway, these frequencies are just, supercharged. They're like on
All over the place.
steroids. It's out of control. So
Yes.
yeah, so yep. So everything is being everything is being increased, upgraded, pushed to its next level. So, which is why everything feels a little fluid right now, especially time, where sleep it may be impacted, where like we were talking earlier, where we're not sleeping a full night anymore because the sleep
Oh, crazy.
program is a program. The
Right.
the soul doesn't need the sleep, the body does. And that's what happens when we lay down in bed at night when we go to sleep. The soul actually leaves the body because that's how it recharges, because you have to think it's in this container all day long. So when the body lays down to rest, the soul leaves and it'll go into higher states of dimension and visit other souls, or it's teaching, or it's in other realities, it's in parallel realities doing various things as if we were awake. So
That's good that you're talking about this because I only have like 4 hours sleep some nights, but not 5 hours sleep.
mhm,
But I wake up and I'm not tired.
mhm,
Like some mornings, some mornings I wake up and go, oh my goodness, I'm so tired. But some mornings I wake up, like this morning, I didn't have a lot of sleep last night, but I still woke up and thought, but I'm feeling okay,
mhm.
right? So I might as well
Yeah.
just get up and get on with my day. But I had some nausea. Like I'm fighting with this nausea now for probably 2 weeks, off and
Mhm.
on.
Mhm.
But the only thing I'm finding with it too is the impact of how the body is heating up as well.
Mm.
And I'm past all that heating up stuff. I'm not through my menopause and that, but I'm finding I'm going through heat stages.
Yeah,
And
the heat is a big thing because that when we're going into a state of expansion, right? When we're receiving these photonic particles, these photonic light from the sun, you have to remember we're made of photonic light. So when we're receiving the photonic light from the sun, we're in a state of expansion because photonic light is conscious living light. And that expansion creates that heating up because it's everything in our field, it's everything in our body expanding. It's almost like when water boils and it starts to get agitated and the bubbles start to bump into each other, right? And the water is agitated. There's that expansion of heat. So that's the heating up that you're feeling. And then you might notice after that, when you're done with your upgrading, as I like to say, and you're no longer needing to be in expansion, you go into contraction, which is like coming into yourself and everything pulls back in tightly, right? And as it pulls back in, you get ice cold. And then you find yourself being very cold and nothing can make you feel warm because it's it's an internal cold. It's not an external cold. And
That's
that
right.
cold is the plasma that is in the air on the earth, which is very viscous, that's coming in, and the plasma comes into our body and it does like a roto-rooter, right? And it takes all of the distorted energy, those energy blocks in our field, takes them, and it asks us to release them. So this is the process that's been going on for many, many years. And I've had my share of it, and we're still going to feel it. It's not like we're not going to feel it. We're going to still feel it through these upgrades, especially in this eclipse window, coming into the lunar eclipse on the 5th. I could tell you that everybody at some point is going to have some kind of pressure headache as the third eye is being adjusted, the pituitary gland is being activated, right? All of these, the pineal gland is being activated, all of these molecules and the molecular structure, the DNA, the etheric DNA, everything is in a state of expansion. So, people are having these upgrades and they don't even realize it because they think they just have a headache that day. But it's not just a regular headache, it's actually a pressure headache from the expansion phase. And then they might notice that right after the headache, they start to feel cold, because the body wants to go into that state of cocooning so that it can process the new information. Because you have to remember, the light that we're receiving is living conscious light.
So could we already be experiencing a little bit of that now?
Absolutely.
Coming on, okay, because I've been getting some, and I'm not a headache person normally.
Yeah.
And I've been experiencing the last couple of days.
Yes.
So that's interesting as well.
Yes. Yes,
okay.
I have a new botanicals company that I'm preparing to launch and get out there. And I make a tea for the headaches called head relief tea. After this, let's exchange information and I'll send you some so you can try it out, because it really soothes the nervous system and it takes the headache right away. And it's all herbs, natural organic herbs. Yeah. But and there's a lot of things we could do. I mean, people could try chamomile as one of the herbs that's in my tea remedy. Chamomile's a great herb for calming and soothing the nervous system. But the more we are understanding that what we're going through on a day-to-day basis, regardless of what it is. It could be an ache, it could be a pain, it could be something that looks like a pimple. I have this little tiny red spot on the left side of my cheek. It's actually, that red spot looks like a pimple. It's actually not. It's a crystal popping out of the skin, because as we're going through these upgrades and activations, we're hitting our crystalline light body technology. And that crystalline light body will actually create these little hard particles that look like almost like a tiny little piece of citrine. And I've posted pictures of it on both my website and my blog, and also on my Instagram page, where it's sitting next to a penny, and the crystal is like this tiny, teeny little particle. But people are getting these and they're experiencing them. It looks like a red pimple bump, and the head of the bump is more translucent. So it's not like a pimple. It looks like one, but it's not. And in that head is the fluid. It's important not to scratch them. It's important not to pop them, because most of the time, all it is the technology of the light body activating, and then it's wanting to be like birthed almost. But if we leave it alone, it actually goes back in and is assimilated by the body. I had 2 of them on my hip. This is common. I've had clients who've had them all over their scalp, and they're like, I don't know what's going on. I'm having this crazy breakout. It's itchy like crazy. But it's all natural. These are not ascension symptoms. When we call it a symptom, we're associating it with third dimension, and where we're going and what we're doing is not. It's a 5th dimension and higher activity that's taking place in the body. So we have to be careful that we're not terming it and calling it by a third dimension term that puts us in victimhood. Because if you think about it, we call it a symptom. Boy, we're right in victimhood, right? So, and then that shuts down our ascension process.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah.
I know lately I've been just guided to do some sun gazing. So I've been practicing that a little bit over the last probably about a week, and taking pictures of the sun and things like that. Like, I'm just being called to do that. And it's very interesting, because then when you look at the pictures afterwards of the sun, it's just interesting what you see with that and the messages that you get. Like this morning when I was doing it, I was gazing at the sun, and then all of a sudden the sun, it turned into almost like this plane with some water on it, and this beautiful pink, like it was so beautiful and uplifting. I loved it. So it's just interesting where you're being called, right?
That's the plasma that you're seeing, that water-like structure. So the plasma is replacing our air. Most people are finding that they're having tremendous pain on the sides of their neck, like almost swollen glands, because we're actually growing another set of glands, which are like a more etheric glands that are processing the plasma. If you've taken pictures lately outside, you might notice that there's distortion. It's a little blurry. It looks you know, like it's got a film over it, or it's like water or whatever. That's actually the plasma. So we're seeing that coming, you know, in our pictures, right? Where all of a sudden it's blurry. If you go back to my Instagram page, I explain a lot of this, because you'll see tons and tons and tons of different kind of pictures of the sun. And so you'll probably find one that matches yours in a similar way. And then, you know, there's descriptions under it of what I'm experiencing or what that sun is bringing in. But we're hitting these very, very high crystalline light frequencies, which is bringing through the diamond light. So there's a lot of stuff that's going on right now that people are not consciously aware of, you know. But the sun gazing is awesome. I will tell you this, though. So if your eyes start to bother you at some point, right, they feel tired, they feel achy, or maybe you're noticing that they feel scratchy, it's because the sun will be activating the crystals in your eye. So the eye technology, think about it from this perspective. We only have the physical eyes because the third eye was shut down. If the third eye was in complete and full operation, and I mean complete operation, we would not need our physical eyes. I have a client who came to me, I think probably 2017, I think, or 2018, who's now become a friend, who lives in Tennessee. And she can actually see through walls. She had a spontaneous Kundalini activation many years ago, close to 2013, I think, 2012, 2013. And that just activated everything. Whoosh. Now, most people don't have that because we schedule a softer, gentler way of waking in and coming into ourselves, right? But she can actually see through brick walls. It's amazing. And her third eye is so on that she could close her eyes and guide herself by her third eye.
Wow.
That's where we're going to be heading. Yeah. Now, is that going to happen now? No, because, you know, we're not even anywhere near that, but we will be seeing that in the years to come. And that's the exciting part of this. There's so much for us to look forward to, you know?
Well, there is, and it is exciting, and I like it because, like I say, I went away to this retreat, and it was definitely meant to be for me, because I did a lot of emotional releasing of things, but I had some really interesting experiences where, you know, when you're into the meditation and you're kind of into that theta state, and then I left my body and then came back in. So I think my body got scared and was like, ooh, better get back in, right? Because I was like, I'm floating. Wait, no, I'm not even in my body, I don't think. So it was interesting, the levels that I reached while I was there. And then, you know, experiencing these different things, because there was a lot of meditations and
Mhm.
sound baths and stuff where you stayed in that theta state. And literally when I came home the next day, I was still in that state. And when I
Mhm.
showed up the next day at work, they're like, you're different. There's something different about you. You're
Yeah.
in a different,
Phase,
and I'm
yeah.
like, yeah, I'm in a different frequency now because I
Yes.
raised it by going into that state.
That's
Yeah,
true.
yeah, you gave yourself permission to play when you were there. It's something sometimes we forget to do when we're in our home dwelling, right?
Yep.
That's true.
And so we forget to do that when we're in our home dwelling. And so you gave yourself permission to play. And by giving yourself permission, you were able to release your soul self so that you could connect into your next highest level, right? So we're all doing it in so many different ways. We're if we're conscious and we're present, we're always gonna be aiming for the highest trajectories. It's when we forget ourselves and we fall into the illusion of the story in the outer reality that doesn't really have any impact in us, that we kind of fall off track. So it's always important that, even if we're home and we're not out in play anywhere, we're giving ourselves permission to be our fullest self. Yeah, and that's so beautiful. I love that. And the fact that everybody
Yeah.
noticed, because you were still floaty, your light body had ignited. No, yeah.
Yeah. You're not grounded as much.
Yeah. Well, and I've been trying to stay in that state, right? So I often find, like, with my granddaughter the other day, she had this negative energy, and I'm like, hey, I'm just like gonna do something to get rid of your energy because, like, it's ick. Like, why do we want to be in that, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
She's a
and
teenager,
it's
so
yeah, well, it's good too because she's presenting in a way so that you can see what that energy really looks like, what it feels like, and you can measure yourself against it to see where you are in your vibrational alignment. And then, perhaps offer her some options or solutions to help her shift out of where she is. Because what I find happens with most people is that one small thing, just something small, can set us off. And we're down that rabbit hole of that one thing because that lower frequency of third dimension, which is so low in resonance, will be such a stronghold in the energy field because we're used to operating from that place here on the earth plane in third dimension.
True.
And if we're not conscious that that's not where we want to be, and we're not consciously trying to shift from it, the minute we fall into it, then it takes a stronghold and it takes a longer time for us to come back out,
That's true.
So yeah, that was good awareness on your part to
Yeah.
to help her come into a higher state.
yeah.
And kids are having it tough too. I feel like, they're being bombarded just like we are. Their little bodies are, having to interplay with these frequencies the same as us too. And they're having a lot of experiences maybe that they're not even communicating to adults or parents that, they're
Most likely not,
are
yeah.
trying to deal with. Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah, it's interesting. It is really interesting, and I love it because then when you're around people and you're feeling their different energies, and it's like, okay, that your energy is actually not matching mine right now. I'm either gonna excuse myself. Sometimes it's just, and I've been more conscious about the protecting myself, in my meditations in the morning of I don't want to walk out in this world just raw
No
and
way.
open to people. Like open, yes, but I want that protection, the light around me to have a buffer.
I find I'm getting so good. I'm walking away from it now, the energies, that I feel like I'm actually kind of maybe being ignorant a little bit. But I find that if it doesn't suit what I want to do, it's like I have to leave right this minute.
Yeah.
I just can't let it go into my body because it makes me feel all these different feelings, and I don't
Mhm.
like, so I just move myself away. It's great.
Absolutely.
I like it.
Yeah, and that's where we're meant to be, right? We're meant to be tuning away from that which is not in resonance, vibrational resonance with us. I want to give you something to help with the whole protection thing, because I think you're really going to like this. So over the course of the many years I've been doing this work and working with, all kinds of guides and stuff, and now my higher self, and, just really tuning into the higher self and coming from that ninth dimensional perspective that is faith. I've been offered the opportunity to look at myself in this way, where they would say to me, well, it's really my higher self telling me that there's nothing to have to protect from, because in the truth of it is that there is never ever, and I know the entity talk is out there, and maybe we address that in another time and talk about it and just be playful with it. But there is never, ever, ever, ever anything that can come in and take away our energy, diminish our light, diminish who we are. Because from the highest perspective, everything is us. So even the people showing up in your field, right, they're reflections of us. And so if we hold within us the conscious awareness that meditation, we are powering up this magnificent light body that we are, that we don't have to spend our energy protecting ourselves, because if we're in that state of powering ourselves up in a meditation, whatever it is that we're doing, right, in prayer, in sun gazing, whatever it is that we're doing, we are so amplified, so divinitized, so puritized in that form that we are, that nothing can come in and alter us in any way or diminish our light in any way. Because if we let that happen, it's because we're allowing it, because we need to interplay with that shadow aspect of ourselves, because that's all that is. Right? If we look at entities, that's really all that is. It's a shadow aspect of ourselves that we're needing to engage with because we haven't healed it in the physical reality, right? So when we're going out into public, think about how much more powerful you're going to be, and how much more powerful it will be for other people around you to receive your light in that magnitude, when we are not trying to protect or shield ourselves, because what we want to do is just pour into everybody. We want, right? We want to pour into and the both of you have like these such a luminous, like magnificent, huge light around you that you don't want to protect it. We want it out there. You want to pour into everybody. You want to pour into your grandbaby. You want to pour into the person standing next to you that is having a bad day, so that maybe they can receive a little bit, and you drop a little sparkle their way, and now they're feeling a little more uplifted, right? That whole protection thing is, again, a lot of the stuff, that's the old stuff that we have to move away from, because the light body is radiating at such a large degree, that we want to spend more energy amplifying that than having to
cure the world too.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think, even just, it does make a lot of sense just to pour that out to other people and spread that, and then harmonize the world.
And you're doing it when you're out there, because when you connect with people, just even going and shopping or something, I mean, I have a tendency to always smile at people because I want to generate something to them that I'm friendly.
And
I want to give them something too, right? Make them
and
happy.
we exchange light codes, right? We get light codes from the sun, but we give light codes and key codes through the eyes. So when we're making eye contact with somebody and we're smiling at them, we're exchanging energy through the eyes. And we're saying, hey, here's a little bit of me today. Have a great day, right? Because we know we're the power. We know, the game was under the old third dimensional matrix was to teach the protection, because if we did that, nobody is sharing their light, right? Those of us that are really in the work, that are the pioneers, that are on the forefront, that are the new leaders for this new age of Aquarius, right? We're still playing that old game, diminishing our light, when we need to be empowering and putting it out there and recognizing that there is no such thing. We don't need to do that. Now, I will say that with little ones who have not have been able to manage their energy centers yet, or their light body yet, or whatever, I would say if they're really struggling with empathing, until they can be taught how not to do that and bring that energy back into them so that they are in their sovereignty, tell them, imagine they're in a imaginary suit where they could just zip it up and shut everything down. And because the little ones would need that. But for us, we know we're powerful co-creators with the universe. We don't really need to do that. We're just going to be emulations of light out there that, just think about that, how much goodness and richness will be spread and shared to people who don't even know there's an ascension going on.
Right.
Right? I mean,
Lots
there's still people
Lots
out there that
don't.
have no idea what Reiki is, or, or think that, yoga is bad, right? So,
Right.
these are just the little ways that we could play. But if we start to see where the matrix of third dimension was created to keep us small, then we're busting through that. There's no way they're
Sure.
keeping us small. We're going to be the wave that steps forward to empower. The wave that was here to anchor has done that job for us, and now we're the next wave, creating with those who are ready and on their awakening path.
Right.
I love that.
Thank you for confirming with me with the nauseous and that kind of thing too, because I thought, this is crazy. This is what's going on here. And the sleeping patterns too, how they've been working with me. So yeah, you did definitely solve some of those for me. So thank you, Maria. You're
welcome.
awesome. You always have these, I like the way that you put things together too. You have a way of, with words, of communicating that puts it together really nicely for people to understand on any kind of level, sort of thing.
Thank you.
Thank you for that too.
Yeah.
Very
Thank
nice.
you.
Really appreciate that, because I know that there's such a conscious shift right now with people, and I think there's so many people that are lost because they don't understand what's happening to them and are not aligning with their higher selves when they're being called to do different things, or eat different ways, or drink better water, or whatever it is that's been put into us. You're right, like our third dimension and our ego pushes that away and says, no, that can't be. And it's lovely talking to you and the messages that you're giving, because I think people can see, we need to shift into these things as opposed to living in with all of our old teachings. Right.
Yes. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And it's always a pleasure for me when I speak with people like you and co-share the higher level information, as we can come together to offer this to other people who may be needing it, right? Who you obviously get it. You're the source for those people who are now looking for a landing place. Where can I go to get that next level of information? And what I love about the whole podcast idea is because we can touch on a whole bunch of different things in one conversation. And then if somebody hears that and says, I'd like more information about this, then they could certainly either approach you with that, or, maybe look in another direction and say, hey, now I need to see what this is, what does this actually mean? Right. So because we are in ascension. We started in spiritual ascension back in 2012, and then in October of 2017 we went into physical ascension. And physical ascension says you're taking your body with you. So guess what? your body's upgrading. The woo-woo spiritual stuff is still there, but now it entails your body. So get ready, here it comes. And that's where the aches and pains come from. When the body is out of balance because the human is out of balance,
Right.
the body is going to speak to us in aches and pains, and it was funny because yesterday in my online community, we're doing a series called Inner Healer, and we were talking about the root chakra and how important the root chakra is, because believe it or not, in the coccyx bone, which is the tailbone, which is part of the root chakra, the one segment of bone there has to do with awareness, right?
Makes
So when
sense.
the root chakra starts to heal, the awareness turns on in people, right? And think about the third dimensional matrix. It was made to corrupt the root chakra. So everybody, the birthing process on the earth, I mean, we could sit here and talk about this for hours, but
Yes, we
about
could.
how interesting that is, that when the root chakra starts to engage in healing, because the human is engaging in healing when they're taking an interest in themselves, because we're taught not to be selfish or self-centered, well, make sure you're not selfish. You want to do well, that's what got us into trouble in the first place. We're not paying attention to ourselves and how
Ourselves, that's right.
we are, right?
That's right.
So it's all ties together, and healing is many different facets in many different ways. Yeah.
Yeah.
It sure
Yeah, it
is.
really is. And I mean, that is one thing that I really do love about this podcast is it started so simple, and then it's and I'm grateful it's grown so much.
Well, we
And
sure are.
it's
Great.
always great to have lovely
Yeah.
people like yourself
Yeah.
and our other guests that we have on, because I believe there's so many ways of looking at the same thing.
Absolutely.
And I
Mhm.
think we all resonate on a different level with what
Yeah.
we hear. And so then people will know, they can go to your Instagram, and I follow you on Instagram, and I love the content that you put on there. And
Yeah, I'm
you know.
always liking you on there too.
Thank you. Yeah, I follow you guys too. And
Yeah,
I
I do
I put your information out on my Twitter page, which has my most amount of followers. And
Yeah.
my next YouTube video that I do, I'm going to mention your podcast so people can tune in, and I'll put the link down below for that as well.
Thank you.
Thank
You
you.
know,
I
yeah.
appreciate that. Well, we're looking at moving actually over into YouTube, so I might
Oh.
practice with our
Yes.
first podcast here to see if I can get it all figured out. But we just thought
Okay.
that might be our next level of getting the information out to people, and we
Okay.
realize that people
And sharing
like
what you're giving us too, like, you
Yeah.
know,
Oh, good.
like the information, we want that to be out there in a bigger way.
Yeah.
And YouTube would probably do that for us and for you.
Oh,
you know, to
1,000%.
us all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
1,000%. Yeah, as you're rolling into that and you're getting ready and you're just getting ready to launch the page, let me know, and we'll do a YouTube together on my page to show you off and announce your new YouTube channel. So yeah, that'll be a lot of
Thank
you.
fun. Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yes,
That's
we
so
can do
sweet.
that. Sure,
That's very
absolutely.
generous.
Yeah, I know my
Wonderful.
followers would enjoy that. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yes.
Well,
Well,
you too.
it's been such a pleasure talking to you again, and we will definitely connect again. I think we're now all soul sisters, so
I
Yes,
think
sure.
so we really appreciate you coming on again and talking to us, and we'll talk to you another time, give people more information on some of these avenues that we're traveling down as they come up. And we appreciate everybody, if you'd like, and follow us.
that'd be great.
Yeah.
We'd like it very
Instagram,
much.
Facebook.
Yes. Tell them where they can find you too, though. Your Instagram page is Daughters of the Moon Podcast.
Podcast, yeah,
Right.
and then Facebook, Daughters of the Moon Podcast.
Yeah.
And you're
then-
not on Twitter yet, but you might be, right? You might be heading over to
Get
Twitter.
there. Just only personally.
It's another avenue we have to
Okay.
travel.
You might want a Daughters of the Moon podcast on Twitter too.
Okay, I'll look
Yeah.
into that.
Thanks, Maria.
Yeah.
Well,
You're,
thank you.
you're a
It's-
good inspiration, girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, as are both of you. My pleasure.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.